What's up, guys? It's Tyler. I'm back with another movie review comparison. Today, as you can see from the title of the video and my background, I am doing Beauty and the Beast animated, comparing it to the live action Beauty and the Beast. I am going to do this a little bit differently than I've been doing it the last couple of videos, just to make my flow a little bit smoother with this one. So I'm really just going to talk about the major differences that the live action did from the animated one. I don't feel like I need to talk about all the similarities between them because I don't think it's that necessary. And I'm not really going to focus on like the sequence of events because I don't think that's really that relevant. Um, I'm more going to talk about things like, add-in scenes, scene changes, extra details that weren't in the animated one, character changes. There was a couple of plot things and my overall impression. Again, if you have not watched either one of these movies, I suggest you go watch them because they're good movies. And just like I always say, spoiler alert, if you have not seen these movies and you don't want to see spoilers, then go watch the movies, then come back and watch this video. And once again, like and subscribe and comment down below your opinion of this movie. So without further ado, let's get right into my review. Okay, so the first difference in the live action Beauty and the Beast from the animated one is an add-in scene where we see a party in the prince's castle. That's the opening scene. When the narrator, like in the animated one, is telling how the prince is selfish and talking about how the beggar woman went to his castle and offered him a rose for shelter or whatever. But it shows the party and the people dancing in the castle. And it shows the woman asking him to seek shelter, and he refuses her, like in the animated one. I like this add-in scene. I think it's a positive change because it really gives us a visual of the scene, whereas in the animated one, it's just kind of narrated. We don't actually see the beggar woman going to his castle and doing all that. So I do like how we get a visual of it. So I like that. The next change is an extra detail that was not in the animated one. It's an additional spell in which the enchantress not only turns the prince into a beast and the servants into objects, but she also erased the townspeople's memory of the prince and his servants. And I liked this change. It makes sense because in the animated one, it seems like the townspeople didn't really know that there was a castle back there. They were kind of just unaware of it, and it's never explained why. In this one, it's kind of explains why the townspeople are kind of just unaware that there's a castle in the back of the kingdom, because the enchantress erased their memories. So I think that added something to the plot. I liked that detail that added in there. I think it makes it more interesting. Okay. This is more of a music comment, my next comment. This is more of a music one. The music in this one, what I'm trying to comment about right now is there's auto-tune singing. And it's not just one person that's auto-tuned in this movie. I think there's multiple people that sing in this movie that it sounds auto-tuned. And I know that in musicals, I mean, they do tend to auto-tune the singer sometimes, but when they do that, they also tend to cover it up. They're usually able to cover it up better and actually make it sound at least a little natural. But in this one, especially with Emma Watson and her auto-tuning, it was blatantly obvious it was auto-tuned. Like it sounded very computerized when she started singing. And this is not a bash against Emma Watson. Okay, I love Emma Watson. She's a great actress. I loved her as Hermione in Harry Potter. I thought she acted the part of Belle very well. I just wish that they would have either got, I wish they would have gotten an actress that maybe could have sang as well as acted. So they wouldn't have had to auto-tune her like that. But no bash against Emma Watson, just kind of a, I don't like the auto-tune because it's so obvious. So that's a negative that I have about the live action. Don't like the auto-tunes. Okay. Uh, Another difference is there's a difference in Gaston's introduction into the movie. In the animated one, he's seen well, in both versions, he's seen during the opening song, but in the animated one, he's shooting down birds and then he starts talking about Belle. And this one, him and LeFou are seen on their horses and they're just watching the village and he's just looking at Belle. And um, they kind of changed the title, his character's title, because in the animated one, he's kind of just a hunter. And in this one, they say he's a captain from the war. So I guess he's a captain of the military, which is a scene change, but also a character change. I'm neutral about this one. I don't really think it hurt the plot in any way. I don't really think it much added to his character in any way. Maybe he's a bit more respected by the townspeople because he's a captain in the military, but I'm kind of neutral about that one. I don't really like or dislike that one. It just, yeah, I'm fine with it. Um, okay. Speaking of LeFou, this is a character change. In the animated version of Beauty and the Beast, LeFou is kind of a comic relief sidekick, you know, like a lot of the sidekicks are in Disney, and he's a Gaston's goofy little sidekick who admires Gaston and wants to be like Gaston. And in this one, not only is LeFou kind of more serious in this one, he's not as comical, but he also not really has an admiration for Gaston, but it seems like he has more of an infatuation with Gaston. Um, which I don't know if that was intentional. Um, it just kind of felt awkward to me. So I didn't like that change in his character because it just kind of felt awkward and cringy to me, especially since Gaston's not feeling it. So that's another negative about the live action that I really didn't like that they changed LeFou's character like that. So okay, this is kind of a character change about Gaston that I actually kind of liked. When he's telling LeFou how he's attracted to Belle, he says one of the reasons that he's attracted to Belle, one, because she's beautiful, just like he said in the animated one, but also he adds in here, he's also attracted to her because she's the only girl in town, according to him, that does not make a fool out of herself for him. And I kind of like that he says that because it maybe kind of gives him a little bit more respectability. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still very conceited in this movie. I'm not saying I like his character in this movie because he's still very much conceited as in the animated one. But I did kind of like how he threw that in there, you know, that kind of makes him seem a little bit more human. So I kind of like that. Okay, this is a major one, that major change. This is an extra detail that was not an animated one that I really wish they would have included. There is a mention of Belle's mother throughout the movie in the live action one. And the animated one, okay, I know in the animated one that it's basically implied that Belle's mother is dead because she's not around. But they never mention her in the animated one. They never even touch the subject of her. In the live action, they actually mention her. Not only do they mention her, but they go into detail, which I'll discuss more details later about her mother. But they go into detail, like, you know, how she died, what happened to her. You know, Belle actually brings up to her father, tell me more about mother. And that makes sense that she would because she's young. I think in the movie she's supposed to be 17. So a 17-year-old would naturally have questions about their mother who's dead. So I like how the live action addressed her mother in this one. That's a huge one for me. So that's a major plus about the live action. Okay, another difference is instead of going to, and I believe it's an inventors convention that Maurice goes to in the animated one. In this one, he goes off, he says he's going off to the marketplace. He's going to get a rose for Belle, which I kind of not a fan of this change. I mean, it's not like a huge deal, but wouldn't the town have a marketplace already? Why would he need to go off into the woods to a marketplace? I mean, I thought there was a marketplace in the town. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to comment and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a marketplace in the town. So I don't understand why he would need to go off into the woods to the marketplace. So in the animated one, it makes more sense that he was going to an inventor's convention because he's an inventor. So minor, but I didn't really like that change. Um, okay, there's also a scene where the headmaster of the school chastises Belle for teaching a little girl how to read, and then one of the townspeople dumps her laundry out for doing this. Um, that's a add-in scene. I'm kind of neutral again about this one. I don't really feel like it adds much to it or it hurts it at all. I mean, if anything, it just kind of, you know, gives more light to that the townspeople thought Belle was strange, and so I mean, it was okay. I mean, I'm kind of neutral about that, but that's kind of another change. Um, okay, this is a scene change. Next one is a scene change. After that happens with the headmaster and them dumping the laundry out, Gaston goes talks to Belle, and he tries to propose to her, and she refuses him in a more abrupt and blunt way. Whereas in the animated one, um, well, first of all, in the animated one, the proposal takes place later in the movie, but again, I'm not gonna really just focus on sequence changes. But it's more comical how they do in the animated one because Belle's a little bit more subtle in the way that she um rejects him, and she kind of pretends like she doesn't know what he's doing. She kind of plays naive, which I mean we all know she knows what he's doing, but it's kind of more comical. And then he falls into the mud, and LeFlou's playing the band, and there's this little funny little scene where he says, so how'd it go? And Gaston's all mad and he walks off. So I didn't really like this change in the live action. Not because it really hurt the plot, but I guess it for me, I just preferred the way the animated one did that scene. So just kind of my preference in that. I don't really like that change. Um, so then okay. So then we have a scene change when Maurice enters the castle in the live action. He explores the castle and he walks around, then he goes into the diner and he goes to eat, and then he sees Chip talking and it scares him and he runs away, but stops to get a rose. I'm not a fan of that change because in the animated one, he walks in and Cogs with the Lumiere greet him and they're hospitable towards him. And it kind of, you know, first of all, we get to meet the characters in the servants in the castle, and that's a good scene. It's funny and um it shows the warmth in the characters in the castle. Rather than Maurice just kind of going in and being scared. I guess they did that to be, I guess, more realistic with it, but I don't know. I preferred the animated version of it, that scene. I really did. And then there's another scene change right after where before he tries to run away from the castle, he tries to take a rose, and then the beast captures him. And this is a scene change because in the animated one, the beast locks him up after catching him sitting in his chair and trespassing in the castle. Whereas in this one, he captures him because he stole a rose. Which again, I didn't like that change, just because in the animated one, when he captures Maurice, um, we actually get to see a visual of the beast in that moment. And in this one, I mean, there's kind of a glimpse of him, but it's not like a full-on visual of him. So I guess I just prefer the animated how they did that again. A lot of these, when I say they're negative, it just means that I prefer the animated how they did it. I didn't really prefer this one in the live action. Um, and then there's a scene where when Belle comes to the castle to rescue her dad. Um, in the animated one, she tells the beast, I will take his place. And then the beast switches them out. And this one, she actually tells the beast to let her say goodbye to her dad. And then she goes into the room where Maurice is locked up and she tricks Maurice in, like, she hugs him, tells him, I'm gonna escape. He's confused, and then she pushes him out the cell and then locks herself in and takes his place. Um, I like that scene. I actually do like that change because in the animated one, and one of the reasons why Belle was so upset was that she didn't get a chance to tell her father goodbye. In this one, she actually does get a chance to tell him goodbye. Um, and it's more of a clever way that she takes his place, kind of tricking him like that. So I did like that change. That was a very subtle change, but I liked it. And we also have the characters of Lumiere and Cogsworth, which I just want to kind of briefly mention that I love the voice actors they had for Lumiere and Cogsworth. Cogsworth was played by Ian McKellen, who plays Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, which I love Gandalf. So I love how Cogsworth was voiced by Ian McKellen. And then I know the other actor who plays Lumiere's name is Ian. I can't think of his last name. Comment down below what his last name is, but I know he plays Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. So that's kind of cool how we have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Gandalf as Lumiere and Cogsworth. I thought that was a really great dynamic there. So just kind of wanted to mention that. Okay, this is another scene change that I'm kind of neutral about. And so after in the animated one, after the beast switches out Belle and Maurice and sends Maurice off to the village, he gives Belle, he's taking Belle to her room where she's going to be staying and kind of shows her around and tells her the castle's yours. You can go wherever you want except for the West Wing. And this one, Cogsworth and Lumiere are the ones that are taking her to the room where she'll be staying and telling her what the beast told in the animated one. And the beast is unaware that they're doing this. So I'm kind of neutral about this. I don't think it, again, I don't think it really hurt the plot in any way. I don't think it added anything to it. It kind of makes a little bit more sense, I guess, that the beast wouldn't immediately be so hospitable towards her. So I guess it kind of makes more sense that Lumiere and Cogsworth are the ones that are nice to her, not the beast so much. So, but again, I'm kind of just neutral about that change. So, okay, and then we cut to the song Gaston in the live action. And first change I want to mention is there's changes in the lyrics to the live action version of the song, which I'm gonna say it's negative because I don't think the lyric change was necessary. And I much prefer the lyrics in the animated one. So, and there's also an extra dance number and sword fight in this one, which I'm neutral about that. I don't think that really hurt anything or added really anything to it. So I'm kind of neutral about that one too. I'm okay with it. Okay, and in this one, in this scene, in the Gaston scene, again, we see LeFou's character, again, the infatuation, and he's just more awkward in this one. He's much more awkward in this movie, which is a negative thing. I don't like how they made LeFou so awkward. Because in the animated one, he's really not that awkward. He's just kind of goofy and a comic relief character. So I don't like how they changed that to awkward. I didn't like that change. Okay, this is a scene change that I actually like. When Maurice goes, so in the animated, Maurice bursts in and starts ranting about the beast and Belle being locked in his dungeon and everything, and all the townspeople think he's crazy. They laugh at him. Gaston pretends he's gonna help him, but then he throws him out into the snow. And this one, again, the townspeople are making fun of him, but Gaston actually insists that Maurice lead him to the beast. And he actually tells the townspeople stop making fun of him, even though he doesn't actually believe Maurice. He's just trying to kiss up to him. But it makes sense. I kind of like this change though, because it makes sense why Gaston would want to suck up to Maurice because he's trying to marry his daughter. So it makes kind of more sense why he would want to kiss up to Maurice. And it gives Gaston and Maurice a little bit of interaction, which they really didn't have in the animated one. So I'm going to get further into that into another scene that's coming up. But I did like that change though, because it makes sense. And then another scene change is that it shows that the Beast kind of fusses at the servants in the live action. He fusses at the servants for giving Belle a room and wanting to feed her, whereas in the animated one, he's the one that gave her the room. Again, I'm kind of neutral about it. I don't really have a huge opinion about that. Although I kind of think it makes sense that, again, he would be just automatically hospitable towards her when he just captured her. So, okay, this is an add-in scene that I do not like. Belle attempts to escape off the balcony. This is in the live action, she tries to escape. In the animated, she doesn't try to escape. At first I was kind of neutral, but then I thought about it and I was like, no, I don't like that change. Because the whole point in Belle taking her father's place is that she's sacrificing herself for him. And it shows her love for him. And in this one, I'm not saying she doesn't love her father. She does love her father clearly in this one. But I'm just saying the fact that she's trying to escape, it kind of takes away that sacrifice. It kind of takes that away. The element of I'm actually sacrificing myself for him. Whereas she's trying to escape, so she's not actually trying to sacrifice. I don't know. It kind of takes away the sacrifice for me. Maybe I'm being too critical, but that's kind of how I feel. I kind of feel it's more genuine just to not try to escape. Okay, this is an extra detail that I actually kind of like. Because there's a scene where in the live action where the servants are talking about how they're getting more metallic and they're getting more like an object. And so if the spell does not get broken, this is in the live action. If the spell doesn't get broken, the objects in the castle will turn into actual inanimate objects. Like they won't be able to talk at all, you know. And I like that. I like that change because it makes sense that there would be a more drastic consequence for the servants in the castle because the beast will stay a beast and they will actually turn into objects and will not be able to talk. Now there's two implications that could happen with this one. One, that the beast will remain a beast and maybe he's an actual beast and can't talk, like the objects can't talk, or is the beast going to stay a beast and can still talk, but the animated objects cannot talk, and that takes away any social interaction that he has at all. Because at least with the servants in the castle, even though they're objects, they can still talk, and at least he has some sort of social interaction with them. But if they're not able to talk, it takes away that social interaction, and then he's more lonely. So I kind of like that extra detail in there. That wasn't in the animated one. Okay, then there's this big add-in scene. One big add-in scene that I'm gonna briefly sum it up. It cuts back to this is live action. It cut back to Maurice is trying to lead Gaston to the castle. Gaston grows impatient with Maurice, and then he confronts Maurice, saying the only reason he's helping him because he wants to marry his daughter. And then he threatens to feed Maurice to the wolves. And then LeFou says, "Hey, calm down. This doesn't make you look good." And then he tries to backtrack and charm Maurice. And then Maurice tells Gaston he will never marry his daughter. And then Gaston ties Maurice to a tree and leaves him for the wolves to eat him. And then LeFou tries to get Gaston to change his mind, but Gaston refuses. It's actually kind of a character change for LeFou too. But the main part is the add-in scene. And I actually did like this scene for a couple of reasons. Number one, it adds to the point I made earlier about Gaston wanting to suck up to Maurice because he's trying to marry his daughter because obviously he's her father. But it also shows a character change in Maurice from the animated version that I actually like this change. In this version, Maurice has more of a backbone. He has more of a spine in this one. He's more vocal in this movie. In the animated one, I'm not saying he doesn't have a backbone at all, but he doesn't really show it. In the live action, though, it really does show that he has a backbone, especially in this scene. So I like that character change from Maurice. And I feel like this scene as a whole really shows Gaston. It really shows more of his brutal nature. Like he's is a jerk. Like it shows how far he's willing to go when someone upsets him. So I kind of like that. And I do like how LeFou tries to get in the journey. It shows kind of a character change in LeFou that he's starting to realize the error of Gaston's ways and that Gaston maybe is not the greatest guy in the world. So I kind of like that. Okay. This is a add-in scene right here that I really like. It's the scene where Mrs. Potts and this is after the Beast rescues Belle from the wolves, like in the animated one. And she's trying to heal him. And they have the little argument like they do in the animated one. But then Mrs. Potts and the other objects tell Belle about the Beast's tragic past with his mother dying and his father implying that his father was abusive to him. I really, really do like this scene because it gives background to why the Beast, even as a prince, was such a jerk because his mother died when he was young. That's traumatic, one. And two, according to Mrs. Potts, the prince had a good heart and he was a sweet kid until his father, basically abused him and twisted his heart into darkness. And that really adds a lot to the Beast character. That makes him more of a three-dimensional character, and I like that. I mean, he was a very three-dimensional character in the animated one too, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I like this added. I like the backstory. And then we have a flashback to the prince's childhood, watching his mother die, which I like that. Again, it adds, and then we get the song Days in the Sun, um, which adds kind of more emotional layers to that previous scene. So I actually did like that add-in song. Okay, and then this next one is an add-in scene, and it's also a huge plot change from the animated one. And I went back and forth about how I felt about this scene. It's where the objects actually tell Belle of the curse and what will happen when the last petal falls. And Belle wants to help them, and the servants don't tell her what it's going to take to help. I like this for a few reasons. Well, first, because in the animated one, Belle is unaware of the curse. She does not know there's a curse. She doesn't know that the beast is actually human. She doesn't know that the objects in the castle are actually human. She just thinks that it is an enchanted castle. In this one, she's made aware that, hey, the beast actually is human. He's a prince. We're his servants. We're human. And at first, that's an add-in scene, and it's a big plot change because in the animated one, like I said, she didn't know. At first, I thought it was a negative because I thought that it kind of took away from Belle. I felt that it took away from Belle knowing that he's human, not knowing that he's human, so that she could further learn to love the beast without knowing there's a human inside of him. But as I thought about it more, it's actually a positive change because it really does help Belle to show the human inside of the beast and that there is a person in there. But she still learns to love him as a beast. So I actually do like that. And I like how when she asks the servants, how can she help them? The servants don't tell her because if they tell her that she has to learn to love him in order for the spell to break, that might have influenced her and it might have made her feel obligated to try to fall in love with him. So, but the fact that they didn't tell her, it keeps that element in there that she falls in love with him naturally. So I actually do like that they did not tell her that that's what it took, because it keeps that natural love development in there. So I actually think this was a positive added scene and positive plot change. And then we cut to another add-in scene. Agatha finds Maurice at the tree and he helps him heal. That's a good change. I mean, I'd say it's positive because it follows up with him being tied up to a tree. It doesn't just cut to him being all of a sudden released and there's no explanation. So at least they explained how he got free. Agatha let him go. And there's a more about Agatha to come later. Agatha is not just a one-dimensional character, let's just say. But we'll get into that later. Okay, so another add-in scene is when Belle, in the live action, is when Belle is reading a book to the Beast, and the Beast expresses his interest in Shakespeare and mentions his education. Also says he does not like Romeo and Juliet, because he says there's much better books out there than Romeo and Juliet. And then he shows Belle his library. And I really do like this scene because it gives a little bit more to the Beast. And also, and this is a kind of a general comment about the movie too, this is actually something that I think the live action did better than the animated one did. In the animated version, after the Beast saves Belle, they have that little argument, Belle heals him, and then it cuts to a scene where now all of a sudden they're just getting along. Like, it doesn't jump into a romance necessarily, but it kind of just jumps into, oh, now they're automatically friends now. Whereas in the live action, they kind of more gradually develop their friendship. Because even when she's healing him in that scene in the live action, she doesn't automatically thank him for saving her life. She does that later. And it shows, again, kind of a more gradual development of a friendship and a romance, which I like that it's more gradual because that's more realistic than how the animated one did it, where they kind of just jumped into it. So I did like that change in that. It kind of shows more of the progression of their relationship. Okay, another add-in scene, which this leads to a very big one for me. So the Beast suggests that him and Belle run away after they in the live action, that they kind of connect to each other, that they feel out of place, and Belle feels out of place in the town, Beast kind of feels out of place in the castle, and he suggests that they run away. And he shows her a book, an enchanted book that the enchantress gave to him, that it can take him anywhere he wants to go. And just like he has to think about it. Like, I think he has to put a hand on the book and think about where he wants to go, and it transports him there like instantly. And I really like that because it kind of gives him sort of an escape in some way. Now, he also says that it's kind of more of a curse because the world doesn't want a Beast. But I say this is still a good scene because it leads up to the next add-in scene that's very positive for me. The other add-in scene right after this one, so Belle wants to go to Paris, and they end up where she grew up, and she actually learns what happened to her mother, how her mother died, and it was from the plague. And I really love that because, again, I wish the animated one would have it. I'm not saying they had to do it like this, how they did in the live action, but they could have at least mentioned how she died. So I really love how they went into that in this movie, how the mom died. It gives more of a backstory to Belle, and I really wish the animated would have done that. So I really like that scene. Okay, and then this is another add-in scene. Gaston and LeFou, it cuts to them in the live action. They walk into the bar where Maurice has accused Gaston of trying to kill him, like feed him to wolves. And Gaston, of course, refutes him, saying that he's crazy. The villagers ask Maurice for proof, but they don't believe him because they don't believe Agatha, because they think Agatha's just an old hag and they don't believe her. and LeFou backs Gaston up. And then Gaston has Maurice locked up in the insane asylum. I like this add-in scene because again, it shows how the people kind of respect Gaston from being a captain in the military, so they're more inclined to believe him. And the only person who can back Maurice up is LeFou, and of course he backs up Gaston because at this point he's still on Gaston's side. But again, it shows Maurice's more vocal character. Like he's more vocal in this one. He's actually willing to say Gaston tried to kill me. And so it all makes sense that he would go to the villagers and tell them that, even though they didn't believe it. But I do like this scene. Um, and another thing kind of in this scene is a character change for LeFou. LeFou, even though he backs Gaston up, he looks guilty about it. Like he looks like he's starting to feel guilty about backing up Gaston, which again, I like that character change. It shows that he's starting to realize that Gaston is not the greatest person, and he's starting to see the error in Gaston's ways. So, okay. This next thing is a huge plot hole in the live action version. And I'm not going to say the name of this friend, but I have this really good friend of mine, and we've always made fun of this plot hole ever since the first time we saw the live action version of the Beauty and the Beast. So, and I know she's gonna watch this video and she knows what I'm talking about, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There's a scene kind of like in the animated one where Belle sees her father in the mirror. Now in the animated one, she sees him sick and kind of weak, but in this one, she sees him being thrown in the insane asylum. But in both movies, she says, well, she needs to get there fast. And of course, the Beast releases her and tells her to go fast. But in the live action, this is a plot hole because they're saying she needs to get to her father as quick as she can. So she runs off on the horse, but they completely forget that there's a book that can literally transport her to him instantly. She just has to put her hand on it, think about where she wants to go, and bam, she's there. So that's a major plot hole. So because if you're gonna put a book that can transport the character instantly wherever they want or need to go, why not utilize it for this scene? It's for me, it's a plot hole, but it's also a missed opportunity. So I don't like that they didn't do that. That's kind of a negative thing about this one for me. I really wish they would have utilized it. And then we have another add-in song called Evermore, which is the Beast song. And this song is basically him expressing his love for Belle. Like she's always in his head. She'll never leave his head, evermore, whatever. I didn't like this song. I think it was unnecessary. I don't think we needed that song because we don't need a song to know that the Beast is in love with Belle. Beast has already expressed his love for her by setting her free and allowing her to go to her father like she wants to do. That already shows that he loves her truly. We don't need the song Evermore to show that he loves her. So that's kind of a negative thing that I really didn't like. I think they could have left the song out. I think they just wanted to add a song for the Beast. I just think it was unnecessary. Okay, and then we cut to where they're throwing in the live action, where they're throwing Maurice into the insane asylum. This is a scene change from the animated one. Because in the animated one, Belle's there, and Belle tries to convince Gaston not to throw him into the same asylum, tries to convince Gaston. But in this one, Maurice is the one trying to convince him to, and Gaston tells him if Maurice allows him to marry his daughter, he'll tell them not to throw Maurice into the asylum. Of course, Maurice refuses. I'm kind of neutral about that change. I mean, it's not really a huge deal. I mean, it's kind of the same basic storyline, so I don't really think it's that big of a change. And then, so then we have the live action Belle comes and kind of like in the animated one, she shows them proof of the Beast because they're calling her father crazy, and then Gaston is trying to go after the Beast and throws Belle into the insane asylum with her father. And LeFou, this is a character change. LeFou tries to reason with Gaston. This time he's trying to reason with him. And again, I like this change in LeFou. He's starting to see that Gaston really is a bad guy and he should not be doing this. He's trying to convince Gaston to do the good thing in the situation, which again, Gaston refuses. And even threatens him to say, you want to be next? And then LeFou cowers to him. And then in the song, the mob song, there's kind of some lyric changes, which again, I don't like the lyric changes. I'm going to steal a quote from Cogsworth from the animated version about the lyric change in some of these songs in this movie. If it's not Baroque, don't fix it. There we go. Anyways, on to, but there's a scene, there's a certain thing in a lyric in the mob song where LeFou fears that Gaston is turning into a monster. And again, kind of adds to the character change that he's been having throughout the movie where he's starting to see Gaston's true colors. I like that. Okay, then there's an add-in scene where they go into the castle after the mob song and the villagers, they start to, they say that the castle looks familiar, but they don't know why. And I do like that because it connects to the beginning of the story where the narrator said the enchantress took away their memory. So it makes sense that they would think it looks familiar, but not know why, because their memories are still erased. So I did like that. Maurice, cut back to Maurice and Belle. Maurice helps Belle escape. This is a scene change because in the animated one, it was Chip that used the invention to help them escape. Again, I'm kind of neutral about that. I don't really think that there's much of a big deal about it. I mean, I thought it was kind of cooler the way Chip did it because he used the axe to chop them out. But I mean, it's the same basic idea. Bella escapes and go back to the beast. So I don't really think it's that huge of a deal. I don't think it hurts the plot at all. But it is a scene change, so I don't want to mention it. I'm kind of neutral about it. Okay, and this I combined two. This is an add-in scene plus a character change. During the fight, during the in the live action course, during the battle, Mrs. Potts recognizes Mr. Potts as one of the villagers, which is an added scene, which again, it adds to the beginning where the enchantress puts that spell. And it's funny because the reason she's able to recognize Mr. Potts is because I don't think the enchantress put the spell on the servants that they would forget the villagers. It's that the villagers forgot them. That's why she was able to recognize Mr. Potts in that moment. And then also in that scene, LeFou actually starts fighting for the castle servants and turns on Gaston. And he never does that in the animated version. So this is kind of a scene change and a character change. Because in the animated, LeFou just runs away with the other villagers. So I do like that. Again, it adds to his whole character change in this movie that he finally realizes Gaston's not the person he should be siding with, and he goes to the good side, which I do like that. And I just kind of want to mention this. In the midst of the battle, Agatha is seen walking up the stairs with this look of on her face, which is positive, and I'll get into that why that's positive because that there's another little change coming up where it explains why she's doing that. But just know I do like that. And then we have okay, so there's after Gaston and the Beast have their battle, there's a few changes, like Gaston uses a gun instead of a knife, which again I didn't really put that in my notes because I don't really think that was a big thing. But so the last petal falls, of course, like in the animated one, and when that happens and Belle's crying she's mourning over the beast, the objects turn and actually into inanimate objects in the live action. This is another add-in scene. And I like it because, again, it follows up with the detail earlier in the film that they would turn into inanimate objects, like ones that can't talk, if the spell was not broken by the time the last petal fell. So it followed up with that. So I really did like how they, got a continuation of that. And then this is the part about Agatha that kind of surprised me when I first saw this movie. I really liked this. This is a character change and an added scene. It's revealed that Agatha is the enchantress from the beginning of the movie, and she turns the beast back to a human after Belle professes her love for her. She actually uses her magic to put the rose back together after she hears that, and because of course the beast learns to love. So she turns the beast, puts the rose back together, and that turns the beast back to a human, and then turns the inanimate objects back alive, and then back into a human. So I do love that. I love how they made the Enchantress not just like a being in the first movie and then never seen it. I like how they are a villager in the actual village. It adds a because the whole time before I realized that Agatha was the Enchantress when I first saw this movie, I was like, why did they add this random character Agatha? Like, what's her purpose other than rescuing Maurice from the tree? Like, I didn't understand what her purpose was. But when I learned she was the Enchantress, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty clever that they made the Enchantress one of the villagers. That's really cool. So I do like that. And then there's a scene where the villagers come back. There's an added scene where the villagers come back to the castle and they now remember the castle and they remember the prince and they remember the servants. And Mr. Potts and Mrs. Potts are reunited with each other. So I really like that. Um, and there's this really funny scene where Ian McKellen as Gandalf, like we not Gandalf, Cogsworth. I'm sorry. I have him so much as Gandalf in my mind that I keep calling that I wanted to call him Gandalf, but he's Cogsworth this movie. But Cogsworth, when he turns human, there's this woman from the village that rushes up to him and says, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh!" And apparently that's like I guess that's a past love interest or something. And Cogsworth is just in there going, "Oh no, turn back into a clock, turn back into a clock," and that's really comical, funny scene. I love that. But I did like that ending, and then they have a little dance number in the end, and that was really nice. So, and then yeah, so that was the end of the movie. So okay, now I'm just gonna make some general comments of what I felt. As far as the characters go, Belle was kind of the same in both movies. I mean, she was a little bit more vocal in this movie, kind of like Jasmine was in the Aladdin remake. She was kind of more vocal in this movie, but all in all, she was kind of the same. Um, Maurice was had more of a backbone in this movie, so I actually kind of preferred his character in the live action because of the more of the backbone and the spine that he had, and that he was more vocal. So and he was kind of more contributory to the plot, so I did like that. The Beast. One of the gripes I have about the Beast in the live action version is he's not as scary as in the animated version. So I kind of preferred how they portrayed him in the animated version. He was a little bit more scary, a little bit more intimidating. So I did kind of prefer the Beast in the animated one. But I did love the backstory they put. I did love his backstory. I love Belle's backstory too about her mom. I do like that. And speaking of Belle and Beast, like I've said before, I love how in the live action they did more of a gradual progression with the romance and the friendship rather than the animated one that kind of just jumped into it. It was just I as much as I said I liked LeFou's character's changes in the live action, like you started to see that Gaston's not a great guy. I still prefer LeFou in the animated version just because he's more comical and more of a comic. He's more goofy and there's not that awkward infatuation with Gaston. So I did like LeFou better in the animated one. As for Gaston, he's kind of the same in both movies. The only change is that he's the captain of the military in the live action, which is it's not really a big change. He still has the same personality basically. Um, so yeah, kind of the same. As far as Cogsworth and Lumiere, again, their character personalities are the same as they are in the animated one. They're the same. So Mrs. Potts is the same. Chip is the same. Like a lot of the characters they did have the same personalities as they did the animated one. So now how they did the characters in the animation, that was a little bit better done in the animated version. As far as the music goes, I mean, hands down, the music was far better in the animated version than the live action. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the music in this movie. So all in all, do I think that the live action Beauty and the Beast is a Disney do or a Disney don't or a Disney meh? I don't think it's a Disney don't. I don't think it's a don't. I'm gonna say, okay, let me just preface this. I like the animated version a little bit better than live action. I will say that. So I'm only gonna say the live action is actually a Disney do because of the stuff they added in, like Belle's mother and the backstory of Belle's mother, how she died, the beast pass with his mother dying and the father being abusive towards him. I do love those elements they added. I love some of the, and I wish they would have done that in the animated version. And I also love again how the romance was just gradually instead of just jumping into it. So I did prefer that, or I wish they would have done that in the animated one too. So I'm only gonna say it's a Disney do, not because I think it's better than the animated one. I still think the animated one is a little bit better, but I just like some of the elements they added into it, and I wish they would have done it in the animated version. So all in all, I think the Beauty and the Beast live action is a Disney do. It was definitely better than the Aladdin remake, for me at least. But let me know in the comments down below if you guys agree or disagree with my opinion on this one. And again, like and subscribe and give suggestions. If no suggestions come next week, I am going to do the Lion King comparison, and I'm just gonna say that's gonna be an interesting one to say the least. But that's all for now. I will see you guys next time. See you later.